Okay, I have a question that is imperative for me to answer because I see the misinformation and I see how it is being weaponized against Black South Africans. As long as the narrative, it is not at least, paint a picture as to why this exists and why South Africans as a whole, they are like, oh yeah, as long as they're minding their own business and they're not minding ours, we are cool. And as long as the government of the country, the intelligence, is keeping an eye so that we don't find ourselves in a situation, if you know what I mean, Middle East type of situation. Now, once again, this is a foreigner asking me this question. And this foreigner, once again, is a Nigerian. You know how when they ask questions, it is filled with disrespect. So me, I decided that every time when a Nigerian tries to gaslight me or to disrespect me as a South African and my Black South African people, I am going to take the high horse. I'm a Cancer. In most cases, Cancers do not take the high horse. Cancers, when you drag them down, they look for the bottom of the Satan's toe to go under and then dig a hole deeper in the gates of Hades type of situation. So I decided, no, this is an opportunity once again to educate. And I know I'm going to be shooting two birds with one stone here because it's not just to the Nigerians that are weaponizing this against Black South Africans. We're still recovering. But also those that are us South Africans. And for those ones, I understand. The problem is education. Our education system has turned them into exactly this. And history is now is getting reconstructed right now. And as our South African history is reconstructed, maybe they're going to cover this subject. What subject is that? Orania. Why Orania exists in South Africa? You guys have white-only towns. You are afraid of the white people. Hey, white people. Hey, white people. Without taking the opportunity to say, hang on a minute. There is information. The current times we live in, it's filled with information. Back in my day as a student, we used to look up things. We hear something in a subject. If you don't know it, we were taught to look it up. If it's a new word that you discovered or you heard today, you go to your dictionary or encyclopedia or both to get the meaning, the context, and its history, and even purpose as well. Then it adds to your, intelligence. So I get really, really surprised when people are saying things because it's not that it's something they went and looked up. They are regurgitating. Regurgitating from what? Misinformation and weaponization. And without even realizing that they're also feeding people that are actually using it as a weapon against Black South Africans. So let's talk about it. So, of course, South Africa was colonized by both Britain and England. Editing Clantis here. So I said that South Africa was colonized by both England and it was both England and the Netherlands, Dutch. Yeah, by the English and the Dutch. That's what I meant. Let's get back to the video. But if you go a little bit further up the line, South Africa was attempted to be colonized by the Portuguese. Hence, when you go to KwaZulu, it's called Natal, meaning Christmas, because the Portuguese, around 14 something, if I'm not mistaken, they landed at the port of Durban. And they start, hey, we discovered this and we are going to call it Natal because we arrived on Christmas Day. And the Zulus were waiting. So, of course, over time, I guess, 400 years, 200 years later, then came Jan van Riebeeck. Riebeck. I've heard all kinds of pronunciations of this man in 1652. And him too, landed at the port, or what is it called again? That Port of Good Hope somewhere there in Cape Town. Yeah, please correct me. But anyways, yeah, and then he also thought, discover this. And the Khoisan, they were waiting too. But anyways, the point is, we've had white people in South Africa since 1652. If you want to go back to Vasco da Gama, then 1400s, then you can go as far back as that. And of course, our history, there were battles that were fought between black and whites. And when the English came also around the mid 17th century, they found, of course, the Dutch already here. And the Dutch were busy with land and yeah, all that mess. I'm not telling our history. I'm just trying to paint a picture how long white people have been in South Africa, because it seems like every time when they try to weaponize white people against us, as if they just, dropped off the ship yesterday or maybe 200 years ago. It's actually you add 200 more years when all of this began. So, of course, there were battles, and there were battles between the Dutch and the English. It's called Anglo-Boer War, and how they don't like each other to this very day. When I used to go to school, most of the schools that I went to, of course, were white or boys, and there will be Afrikaners, and then there will be English speakers, and how they are taught at home not to interact with each other, just like how some white families teach their young ones not to hang out with us and teach them things about us. They do the same thing amongst each other, and there's that hatred between the English speaking white people in South Africa as well as the Afrikaans speaking white people. Yeah, we have that in South Africa. And no, it's a lot. All right? That's not that. So, because the world was also advancing and it was abolishing in the US your slavery, in Europe, slavery was being abolished, and the selling and kidnapping of West Africans. Even here, the winds of change came to South Africa, where people had to be treated like human beings. And the Afrikaners, they'd be like, we don't think so. Hence, in 1948, Hendrik Verwoerd created what you would call separatism or separatist agenda called apartheid, meaning black people, y'all gonna live by your own in the most dilapidated areas of the country where you can't even plant anything. Basically, move black people from economic hubs like your Johannesburg, Durban, Cape Town, Bloemfontein, yeah, as well as the area. What that law got? Area yeah, that 1913 Act. I'm still medicated, people. My mind, it's just juggling. The 1913 Act, the Native Groups Act, or something like that. I'll put it in the screen so that you see what I'm talking about. Basically, this is to take land from black people and push them to areas like what today you call Soweto, basically your shanty towns or locations or townships as we call them, and those townships are everywhere. So it is not the only township that exists in South Africa. If you go to KwaZulu, you'll find Mlazi, Kwamashu, Ntuzuma, you name them. If you go down to the Western Cape, you'll find Langa, Khayelitsha, and all of that, etc. and so on. Okay? Now, because black people were resisting apartheid just like they resisted and fought wars that I think you should learn. When South Africans are talking about wars that they've fought and won, and some that fought and they got conquered, read about those wars. And then how black South Africans also fought apartheid, because at the end of the day, we were not like, well, that's what my parents used to say. We are not like our parents, because their parents were colonized, they were conquered in wars, and hence land taken and all of that stuff, all right? So our fathers and uncles and aunts, They fought the system of apartheid. Yes, like I've always said, with black South Africans, there's always that one thing in their mind. You can kill some of us, but you can't kill us all. As long as we're still in numbers, we will defeat you. That's the South African black mentality that we have. And so, as the Afrikaners were looking at things, I mean, some of them even predicted as far back as 1963, where they're like, okay, this apartheid system is not sustainable. At some point, the professionals, the engineers, the teachers, the geniuses that were produced out of the apartheid education system would have to formulate a separate town for themselves. And this town, not any Tom, Dick, and Harry, irrespective of what color they are, would be able to come in here. So it was an idea, it was spoken about. This is like in the Northern Cape. And then when things were kind of starting to look like apartheid is actually dying, in 1991, some Afrikaners decided there's a plot of land that anyways we've been working back in 1963, where most of the engineers, that your railway line engineers, your, I don't know, engineers that basically build the infrastructure that we had and we built on it post 1994. They were like, I think we should go back to that area, which now is called Orania, and establish it, because if apartheid falls apart, we don't want to be with any other people. When they said they don't want to be with any other people, they didn't say black people. They said white people who are English speakers too, because no white person that speaks English is allowed in Orania either. So they would have a system where they will vet people, and also they will choose who is allowed to come in and live in Orania. So they bought that piece of land for 1.5 million rand. Orania is a privately owned land that was bought, had nothing on it. So they thought, we don't want to be part of the new South Africa. This is 1994. They were predicting things that we are foreseeing apartheid falling apart and black people taking over. And then they bought that piece of land. And it started off as very few people. I think by year 2000, the South African government, which is now the democratic government, looked at Orania and said, no, we're not going to have a separate place within South Africa. So they went to court to turn it into a municipality so that it can be controlled by the South African government, I guess the provincial government in Northern Cape. Unfortunately, government lost that particular case based on, I hope I'll be able to read this, based on, let's get my glasses so that we get to see how we got here. This is the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa, Act 108 of 1996. And if you go to section 235, where's 325? Bear with me. Okay, now we're in the schedules. Okay, where are we? I'll find you, don't worry. Okay, here we go. Here we go. Imagine it's just a paragraph, and it says, I hope I can see these tiny little words. So the headline under section 235 says, self-determination. Oh, self-determination. So Orania exists based on section 235 of the Constitution, self-determination. Now, the right of South African people as a whole to self-determination as manifested in this Constitution does not preclude within the framework of this right recognition of the notion of the right of self-determination of any community sharing a common cultural and language heritage within a territorial entity in the republic or in any other way determined by national legislation. They exist because they are Afrikaners. They don't want to associate with anybody else. They want self determination. And because the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa allows them to have a cultural enclave. Now, once upon a time, the Prime Minister of the Zulu Nation, Mr. Buthelezi, the late Buthelezi, who was also the Chief of Staff of the Zulu King, he was pushing with his political party, the IFP, for KwaZulu-Natal to be a Zulu enclave. Basically, he wanted a Lesotho type of a province. Yeah, y'all, we're going to enter KwaZulu-Natal with a passport. Okay, so of course, this was debated, fought, and, well, of course, they lost. I don't know if it was taken to court. I don't remember if it was taken to court, but it was a debate among South Africans. And there are 9 provinces that are recognized in the Constitution, which KwaZulu-Natal is also part of. Okay, so this one is a cultural enclave. Now, you need to look at it this way. In South Africa, there are communities that are enclaved, but they will say to you, oh no, it's for security reasons. I'm talking about gated communities. Oh yeah, gated communities are protected by Section 235 of the Constitution, but they are not saying self-determination. They are using it to protect themselves against criminals coming into their suburbs. That is why if you drive to some communities in the posh areas, you'll come across a boom gate. Now, the boom gate, when you get there, guess who's there? It's a security guard who, number one, will take your number plate if you are traveling by vehicle, and they will want to know, to whom are you going to inside this enclave? And then you'll say, oh, I'm going to Clantus Dumagute, which house he lives in. He lives in house number what on this certain street. And then they will call me. Sometimes they don't call you. There is a code that I would have sent you that you are going to punch at the gate to give you access. Orania is the same thing. They are saying, we will determine who comes into our community, and most of which are Afrikaners who want to preserve their culture on a private land that was bought for this very purpose. But they're still, whether they like it or not, they're still South Africans because they get resources from South Africa, even though they are doing their level best to get off the South African grid in terms of water and electricity. If you go to Orania today, they have their own economy and their own currency. But at the end of the day, in order for them to get goods, they have to have the rand at the end of the day. They are still protected by the same South African army, even though they have their own police inside of Orania. So basically what people are crying about, it's almost silly according to the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa. And in order for this section of the Constitution to be changed, it has to be done in Parliament by 2/3 majority of parliamentarians. And then if they say Section 235 no longer exists, then unfortunately Orania itself does not exist as a self-determined enclave. However, it's still private land that was bought in 1991 for 1.5 million rand. The population, if I understand, there are now 3,000 of them. And back in the day of Nelson Mandela and Thabo Mbeki, they thought, well, let them be. Because they looked at Orania as a transition out of South Africa. Like, they would get so sick and tired of South Africa because, I mean, there's going to be a democratic government that is led by black people. They will pack up and literally leave South Africa as a whole. Something like what Donald Trump did last year. Donald Trump opened a corridor for fast track into American citizenship. And then 7,000 Afrikaners were like, oh, thank you, God, you exist. And they hopped on the plane. And as from what I understand, they learned that the United States of America don't give up about anybody but Americans. So, from what I hear, they might be back home or coming back home. I don't know what the story is, but Orania exists because a group of people decided, hey, we want to be on our own. In recent times, just this past week, a community was discovered, and unfortunately it's labeled as a cult. These are professionals that left their jobs, and people left their families and followed this individual. They had their own enclave. It was a religious enclave or Christian enclave. It was raided. I don't know what happened. I think because they also did not believe in education and they had children of school going age. So of course the government felt, listen, this one is not like Orania. Because Orania, that they do have schools, they do have what any country would have, they have in there. So with this cult group that they discovered, they were operating under Section 235 of the Constitution. Unfortunately, they made a mistake of prohibiting children from going to school, and I don't know what other rules that was discovered there that got them into trouble. But if you think about it as a South African yourself, we've got 9 provinces in South Africa. KwaZulu-Natal, it is the Kingdom of the Zulus. Eastern Cape is for the Xhosa and the Mpondo Nation. You go to Limpopo, it houses the Pedis, the Bavenda, and Tsongas. If you go to Northwest, it houses Batswana. If you go to Free State, it houses Basotho. If you go to the Northern Cape, it houses the Khoisan, colored people, and a mixture of other people, like Tswanas, I think you will find there. If you go to Mpumalanga, you will come across Ndebeles, you're going to come across Baswati, you also come across Tsongas. Gauteng, you'll find all of us. Every one of those 8 provinces I've mentioned. Or if you go to the Western Cape, you are going to come across Khoisan, colored people, and white people in big numbers. So the point here is, if you look at these provinces, and I know there are going to be some people who are going to come on my throat, if you look at it in essence, they are Oranias on their own because they go according to their cultural norms and cultural enclaves. It's just that we are a constitutional democracy, and as a constitutional democracy, we are allowed to move wherever we want to move without anybody asking us questions, why you're here, how long you're here, or based on the skin color, and etc. and so on. But come December time, umZulu kwaZulu, umXhosa Eastern Cape, umNdebele and Mpumalanga, etc. and so on. So us, as well as our own cultural nations, we know where to go to when we have to go there, type of situation. It's just that Orania was pretty strict because they vet who comes in and must be of Afrikaans descent. Just because you also speak Afrikaans does not, and you're white, doesn't mean that you qualify to be accepted in Orania. If you've got a criminal record, definitely Orania doesn't want you, even though you are Afrikaner and white. And definitely not a white English South African ain't allowed in Orania. Just like me, with my black skin, I will not qualify to live in Orania. So weaponize it all you want. And this whole question, why aren't you chasing white people? Why aren't we chasing white people? So what happens? No, I want to know. So what happens? Why aren't we chasing white people? So what happens? Listen, South Africans, we are different from the rest of you guys, especially you guys who believe you are children of God, the men of God, because you even hear this coming from pastors who are not South Africans. Say exactly this talking point. You are preaching hatred. We are not a hatred nation. The reason why you were able to come from your country and lived in South Africa for so long and we swallowed every nonsense that you fed to us is because we are not hateful people. But we are not a people that do not have a breaking point either. Because there comes a time where when you have taken advantage, so much so that we are sick, because right now, as I'm telling you, South Africans are sick and tired. There was another question that was asked. Do I think that South Africans will really chase out foreign nationals? I said yes. As a matter of fact, it's happening. One thing about a black South African, once they made up their mind, they don't have time to go back. They don't take anything as a joke once a decision is being made. That is why I feel, and I did tell this individual, the wise thing to do is to start packing if you are not packed already. Because once South Africans start moving in, you will have no time. You will have no time. Right now, South Africans are shooting warning shots. They are shooting warning shots. Those little marches that you see, or however little or big they are, those are warning shots. But at some point, if you are not moving, they're going to make you move. That's South Africans. And the government will not be able to do anything. That government can take out every army you can imagine. Go back to 1976, go back to 1960, go back to all the heroes of ours that are underground today with hippos. I don't know if you know what a hippo is. With live ammunition. Today, they are our heroes. Their blood cultivates and fertilizes our democracy today. So if you think Black South Africans are playing a game, you're sadly mistaken. The white people, they've been here since 1652 or even 1400. They've been here. We've fought wars with them. We've negotiated. We've compromised. Yes, you're going to say, I get you. But how are we supposed to continue with our talk when you are also right here and allowing yourselves to get used so that we suffer? How are we supposed to talk? Because we believe in talking. We are a dialogue country. That's who we are. So we are not going to be told by you what to do in our country. You can huff and puff and try to blow this house down. It's not going to happen. Instead, you are antagonizing South Africans even further. I even saw one say, but they're not coming on the streets and marching with you. That means they don't. Listen, we are majority here. And it is us, the majority, that are suffering because you guys are right here on our throats. And on top of that, ungrateful. So weaponizing Orania and weaponizing white people against black South Africans, let me tell you what you are doing. You see a duck or even a chicken, and you take a bowl of water and you pour it on top of the chicken or duck. What happens to the water? It doesn't seep into the duck. Kind of like, as if you didn't, pour water on it. Yeah, they just lie down the fur. Is it a fur? Chickens have feathers. Down the feathers. You know why the water doesn't seep in? That's because there's this layer of oil, natural oil, on those feathers. That's South Africans, especially black South Africans. You can scream on a mountaintop all you want. It's not going to happen. If anything, black South Africans, if they see you are attacking white people, we will come in front of say, y'all stand behind, stand right there. What do you want to do? What do you want to do? That's what some of us will do. I'm not talking about EFF. You know what they will do. They agree with you. You know why they agree with you? The majority of EFF supporters, they come from the dumbed down education system. They can't even think critically on any subject. On any subject. And I can challenge you. I can challenge you, fellow South African, who's also Black, to have a one-on-one conversation with an EFF supporter. And I'm talking having complicated or complex topics with them. They'll scratch their head, Razo, hey Buddha, hey Grootman, hey. That's the reaction you're gonna get. They'll be scratching their heads like this because that's not what they were taught to do, to look you directly in your eye and then engage you. Whether what they're engaging you is wrong or right, at least they got to engage you. And because in engagement, it is a battle of ideas. They don't understand that because they were not taught that. So that is why if you throw any dry bone at them, they will run like a township dog and go. There's nothing there, not even marrow inside that bone. That's how dry it is. And they will go for it because the education system, that's exactly what it created. Exactly what it created. Those of us that saw it coming, we were like, and that was about 15 years ago. We're like, yeah, South Africa in 15 years with this education system, it's going to show South Africa flames. And that is why I also warn that in as much as we are fighting illegal foreigners in the country, but we are also opening a door for professional foreigners to come to South Africa. And as we have the merit-based system, what do you think the Home Affairs is doing? I'm just going to reveal a little secret that you're not thinking about. You know what they are doing? They already know that in the next 15 years, there will be no capacity. That means our schools would not produce critical thinkers, innovators. Yeah, innovators, managers, people that will run an economy successfully. So what do you need? You need to open your door to foreigners that possesses these skills coming from other countries. So the illegal foreigners that we are chasing away, they will go back home. But they might not go directly home. They will detour to another country, probably Asian or a Western country, and then get the education. And then once they have that piece of paper, then they try again to enter South Africa. Remember, this time around, there are professionals with skills that are scarce here. Why there are scarce skills in South Africa? Our education system, it dumped all the products that we have to stupidity. To stupidity. Can't even run a country. And as they come in, these products will not even see that now corporate is run by foreigners. Government departments are run by foreigners. The only thing that they will have is South Africans that stand for office as president, mayors, councillors, etc. and so on. But when it comes to technical stuff that schools are supposed to be educating our population, will be non-existent. So, damned if we do, damned if we don't type of situation. That is the reality that we are facing. And when you, as a foreigner, try to gaslight us about white people in Orania, it just shows yourself that you come from a very weak education system that sees things as like a child. Somebody even said to me, hey, why you guys have problems with foreign nationals that are committing crimes? South Africans are also committing crimes. You are right. South Africans are committing crimes in South Africa, their country. And we know how to get hold of them because they are registered in the system. Their fingerprints. That's how we catch them and criminally hold them accountable and then throw them in prison. They are committing crimes at home. You, as a foreign national, that's not your defense to say, but South Africans are also committing crimes. They're committing in their country. What gives you the gall to go and commit crime in somebody else's country? And then you turn around, but South Africans are committing crimes too. Yeah, in their country. In their country. Again, if you look closely to this question, stupidity. Your education system has reduced you to asking stupid questions. That is what it's interesting what's going on. Quite interesting. So Orania is protected by Section 235 of the Constitution. That's why it exists. White people have been in South Africa for almost 500 years. When they say we are South Africans, true. But there are descendants of Dutch and English and Portuguese and whatever else that's here in South Africa now. We are a rainbow nation. We have flaws, we have mistakes, we are cracked, but how do we pull ourselves together when we have extra people that we don't even know who they are and what they are here for? And then you want to turn that around and gaslight us with it and weaponize it against us. You're wasting your time. And yes, you are going back home. And I think I have the courtesy of telling you that you should actually be going. Not planning to go, but already going. If you got things, start selling those things. Because you're not coming back. And unfortunately, the government can't protect you at this point because South Africans has the government by the balls. It's election season. And South Africans will do everything in their power to squeeze as much as they can before the elections, because after the elections, the government tend to relax and not listen, which I don't understand, because we go to elections every 2.5 years. 2.5 years in a South African life, day to day, it is a long time. But in politics, it's a blink of an eye. So I never understood when they don't listen to us between elections. I've never gotten that. But now I think they're getting it. They are getting it because 2029, after the 2026 local government elections, like that. So anyways, let me not blab a lot. I need to go take my medication. I'm left with 3 more. Is it? No, 5 more. 5 more, what do you call it? Pills, because I saw them and I was counting them. 5 left. So that is now. And I have to wake up at 1-ish and take another, and then take another at 10. And then the last one, now it is 8 p.m. So that's the last one tomorrow. So happy, so happy, I'm so happy. Anyways, guys, I think I have simplified the whole existence of Orania. It started all the way in 1963, all the way, but officially became a community in 1991 when they bought the piece of land, which is Orania today, for 1.5 million rand. So that is privately owned land. Privately owned, and they have rules and regulations, just like any gated community wherever in South Africa. They got rules and regulations. Even in America, they got these house, whatever they call them. Apparently, they're quite dramatic. Those committees also have their own rules and regulations, type of situation. So until Section 235 is amended, which I don't think it will, because if it is, then it's going to destabilize provinces, the existence of provinces, in my opinion. And yes, somebody's going to say the Cape Independence, they are trying, no, they are not catered for. by the Constitution section 235. They're not at all. They can argue it all they want until they're blue in the face. It doesn't cater for them because the Western Cape, it's a multicultural um, province. It's not just a British guy who missed his opportunity of becoming a king and thought he will create a fiefdom in the Western Cape and become king. Nah, that's not gonna happen. That section doesn't provide for that, unfortunately. Anyways, I think I'm done. And yeah, foreign nationals, you can ask away. Be as rude as you want to be. I will always see a silver lining, and I will take the high horse, and then I will educate you. I will simplify it to your understanding, because back where you come from, whether in Nigeria, wherever, you were taught to be childish. So, anyways, goodbye.